Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. This will be the second video of our channel, but before we begin, I just want to give you a quick update. If you haven't noticed, I have changed the name of our channel from Politics Now to Now Politics, reversing the two words, mainly because I thought that Politics Now seems to be a bit too classy of a name, so I just reversed it around, and hopefully that name Now Politics sounds more unique. So I hope you like the name. That will be the new name of our channel here on out, Now Politics. So for today's video, we'll be going over election predictions for the 2024 US presidential election between Joe Biden and Donald J. Trump. Both are the presumptive nominees of their respective parties and will most likely be challenging each other in the presidential election. I referenced the presidential election quite a few times in the first video of the channel, which went over the 2024 US Senate elections. So check that video out first before coming to this video. So for today, we'll be, of course, characterizing each state as safe, likely, lean, or tilt towards either the Democrats or the Republicans. So we'll start with the safe states, which I'll again characterize as delivering a margin of victory of over 15 percentage points to the victor. And this time I want to switch things up from the last video and start with the safe Republican states. So to the Republicans, I'll be giving by safe margins Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska as a whole, as well as the 1st and 3rd districts, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, as well as Indiana, and also I'll give South Carolina. Now, South Carolina did vote for Trump in 2016 and 2020 by a bit lower margins than 15%. However, I think given the polarization going on right now and a lot of disapproval among conservative or voters or even right-leaning independents with Biden, I think South Carolina could very well vote for Trump by a safe margin come 2024 with all of the partisanship and polarization we have been seeing. So now we'll be going over the safe Democratic states, and to the Democrats I'll be giving by safe margins. Let's see, Hawaii, California, Oregon, Washington, Illinois, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maine as a whole, along with the 1st District of Maine, New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, and Washington, D.C. So those will be my safe Democratic states. And now we can move on to the likely states, which I'll characterize as delivering a margin of victory of between 5 and 15 percentage points to the victor. So I'll start off with the likely Republican states, and to the Republicans I'll give by likely margins Alaska, Iowa, Ohio, the 2nd District of Maine, as well as Florida and Texas. So now, yes, Florida and Texas have been a bit more competitive in the past in statewide elections. However, I think given all of the partisanship, polarization, and disapproval many people in conservative leading states like these have for Biden's policies, I think these states should easily vote for Trump by likely margins. So now we'll be going over the likely Democratic states, and to the Democrats I'll be giving by likely margins New Mexico, Colorado, Minnesota, New Hampshire, as well as Virginia. So these states should be reliably blue in 2024, but I believe that they will vote uh, for Biden by smaller margins than the safe Democratic states. Now, some people have been saying that Colorado could be a safe Democratic state. However, I want to see more decisive polls to indicate that to me before I would change Colorado from likely Democratic to safe Democratic. So those are all for our likely states. Now we'll be going over the lean states, which again I'll characterize as delivering a margin victory of between 1 and 5 percentage points to the victor. We already have most of the map uh, filled in, so the remaining states will be a bit more interesting to talk about. Okay, so I'll have one lean Republican state to give, and that will be the state of North Carolina. So now, North Carolina has been going to the left considerably between 2016 and 2020. In 2016, Trump won the state in the presidential race against Hillary Clinton by 3.6 percentage points. But then in 2020, Trump only won the state by 1.3 percentage points. His lead over the state dropped by essentially 2.3 percentage points, if I'm correct. Yes, so it dropped by 2.3 percentage points. So now, yes, there is significant potential for a lot of progressive coalitions across the state of North Carolina to essentially gain ground and actually win more statewide elections for the Democrats. However, in 2024, I don't think those coalitions will be as strong or mature enough to deliver Trump a defeat in the state. So that's why I'm going to be rating it North Carolina as lean Republican. I don't think it will be. I don't think the race there will be as narrow to be tilt Republican. It can certainly be so depending on what new information and insights come up, over the next 1.5 years about. So we'll have to look in to more of that. However, for now, I'll be rating the state as lean Republican. So now that will be my only lean Republican state, and I will not have any lean Democratic states on this map as well. So we'll be moving right into the tilt states, which I'll again characterize as delivering a margin of victory of between 0 and 1 percentage point to the victor. And I'll start with, of course, the tilt Republican states. The first tilt Republican state I want to give is the state of Pennsylvania. So yes, I know many people are very skeptical of the idea of Trump winning Pennsylvania in 2024 after what they saw in 2022 when Mehmet Oz, someone, who was endorsed by Trump, a decent Republican candidate, could not defeat John Fetterman, who had presented many instances of cognitive dysfunction and decline. I hope everything is good with him now anyway. But yeah, I mean, in 2022, it really just gave this idea to many people that, Trump's not going to be able to win the state, that, the state has gone away from Trump. But, if you really analyze the election in Pennsylvania in 2022 properly, you can see actually a much more different picture, which I'm going to be going over right now. So let's look at the 2022 Senate election in Pennsylvania, right? So John Fetterman won by 5 percentage points. So let's look at this election compared to 2020. You will see that the counties which went most to the left, which swayed most to the left, was in rural Pennsylvania. Rural Pennsylvania swayed most to the Democratic Party than any other part of Pennsylvania. I mean, just mostly this western part. Philadelphia and the suburbs showed very little sway towards the Democratic Party, but rural Pennsylvania went significantly to the left. Now let's look at some of the counties here and just analyze how the numbers went compared to 2020, right? So let's see. Armstrong County. It was 12 points more Democratic in 2022 than in 2020. In this county, Mehmet Oz got 19,575 votes, while John Fetterman got 8,065 votes. Now let's look at the county in 2020. Donald Trump received 27,489 votes, while Biden got 8,457 votes. So the amount of votes casted for the Democrats in 2020 and 2022 was about the same at 8,000 around that margin or area, while Oz essentially lost 8,000 votes, which Trump had. 8,000 voters who voted for Trump in 2020 did not come out and vote for Oz in 2022. Let's look at another county. Greene County. Mehmet Oz got 8,348 votes, while John Fetterman got 4,394 votes in 2022. In 2020, Trump received 12,579 votes, while Biden received 4,911 votes. So, again, the Democrats received the similar amount of votes, around the area of 4,000 votes, 4 to 5,000 votes in that area in 2020 and 2022. But Oz received around 4,000 less votes than Trump had in 2020. 4,000 voters who voted for Trump in 2020 did not come and vote for Oz in 2022. You want to see another county? Let's see Perry County, 9 points more Democratic than in 2020. Mehmet Oz got 13,956 votes, while John Fetterman got 5,646 votes in 2022. And in 2020, Trump got 18,293 votes, while Biden got 5,950 votes. So Biden and Fetterman again got a similar level of votes, around 5,000 something, while Oz got 4,000 less votes than Trump had in 2020. 4,000 voters who voted for Trump in 2020 did not come out and vote for Oz in 2022 in this particular county. So tens of thousands of voters in rural Pennsylvania who came and voted for Trump in 2020 and perhaps 2016 did not come and vote for Oz in 2022. So now there's either two explanations for this. The first explanation is that all of these voters just woke up and said, oh, I'm not going to support Trump anymore, and because of that they didn't come out to support Oz because Oz was endorsed by Trump. However, I find that very hard to believe because rural Pennsylvania is one of the most conservative areas in the country. It's essentially almost like Trump country. It has voted consistently to the right in 2020 as well as 2016, and it has stuck with Trump with a decent amount of loyalty. So I don't believe this first explanation that, oh, all of these tens of thousands of voters just no longer supported Trump, which is why they didn't support Oz in 2022. No. If you saw a lot of sway to the left in perhaps the Philadelphia area and the Philadelphia suburbs, then yeah, you could say, oh, well, there may have been a lot of independents in that area, they swayed to the left, so maybe because they're independents, it's more likely that they became less supportive of Trump, and so less people came out to support Oz. That I could at least find to be more plausible because Philadelphia and the Philadelphia suburbs are not as loyal to Trump as rural Pennsylvania is. In fact, in Georgia, you actually saw this case in which Atlanta and the Atlanta suburbs swayed the most to the left in 2022 than the rest of the state did. So, yeah, if you saw all of this sway to the left in Philadelphia and the suburbs, or even Pittsburgh and the suburbs, in those areas, then I could accept that as a plausible explanation that, okay, a lot of people, became less supportive of Trump, and so less people came to support Oz. But to say that in the case of rural Pennsylvania is not something I find to be that accurate. This is why I believe the second explanation is far more plausible, that all of the Trump supporters in rural Pennsylvania were just far less enthusiastic to come out and vote Republican in 2022 than they were in 2020 for the simple reason being that Trump was not on the ballot in 2022. Because he wasn't on the ballot in 2022, all these, all of his, much of his supporters did not find, did not have enough will or motivation to essentially want to go to the ballot and essentially vote Republican. And so that's why Mehmet Oz essentially lost a lot of these Trump supporters for this lack of enthusiasm, given that Trump was not on the ballot. And this is what explains the significantly lost turnout in rural Pennsylvania in 2022. It's represented in large part by many loyal Trump supporters who just did not have that enthusiasm to come and vote Republican in 2022, as Trump was not on the ballot. But in 2024, this is going to change because Trump will be on the ballot, and all of these supporters, these tens of thousands of supporters who did not go and vote Republican in 2022, they're going to come and vote for Trump in 2024. And so that's why I'm quite assured that Trump should get at least the same amount of support as in the state as he got in 2020. I'm not going to believe this idea that, oh, because Mehmet Oz, did so badly here and he's supported by Trump, Trump's not going to have a chance in Pennsylvania. No, Pennsylvania in 2022 was just proof that in Pennsylvania, you need to have Trump on the ballot in order to make the Republican base more enthusiastic to come out and vote Republican. Or else you're going to have tens of thousands of these loyal Trump supporters, loyal Trump supporters, who are just not going to be as enthusiastic enough to come out and vote, and you're going to lose those votes. So, as Trump will be on the ballot in 2024, assuming that he wins the nomination, which he most probably will, these supporters will come out and vote for him. Now, can you imagine if Ron DeSantis was in the won the nomination and he was on the ballot? These supporters would not go out and vote for him, just like the Bernie Sanders supporters did not come out and vote for Hillary Clinton in the general election in 2016. You need to have Trump on the ballot in Pennsylvania in order for the Republicans to have a chance to win, and he will most probably be on the ballot, which will cause many of the voters who did not come out and vote Republican in 2022, but were still Trump supporters, to actually come and vote for Trump in 2024. Another thing I want to mention is that another minor reason that Republicans did so badly in rural Pennsylvania in 2022 is also because of the extremely ineffective national leadership for the Senate Republicans in 2022 as well. I mean, Mitch McConnell really mismanaged a lot of campaign funds in 2022, such as when he gave $30 million to a state like Ohio, which was going to presumptively vote for the Republicans anyway, and not really, giving as much money to states like Nevada or even Pennsylvania as such. So, many instances of ineffective campaigning on the national level also hurt the Republicans' chances in 2022, and hopefully that won't happen in 2024 as Trump will campaign, and Trump has been proved to be an effective campaigner. So that's also another factor to take in account too. So now let's say that Trump will have, at least the same amount of support as he had in 2020 in the state of Pennsylvania. So now let's look at the 2020 presidential election results in Pennsylvania, right? So Trump essentially lost to Joe Biden by the area of 82,000 votes. So assuming Trump has the same level of support he had in 2020, he would need, mathematically speaking, 42,000 votes from the Biden column to come to his side in order to flip the state. Now that could be a couple thousand more or a couple thousand less, depending on how much the turnout is in 2024. So that's a area of votes, a number of votes he needs in order to flip the state. And now getting 42,000 votes here won't be as difficult as some people may think. You see, in Pennsylvania, especially speaking, there's a lot of voters who supported Trump in 2016 but voted against him in 2020, really or mainly because they were very frustrated with the pandemic. Now, the pandemic was one of the main reasons they actually voted against Trump in 2020. Had it not happened, they may have actually stuck with Trump. But today, many of these independents are also disapproving and, angry on Biden for a lot of his policies, which, had, as we have seen in 2022, created a lot of inflation and, financial instability and whatnot. So now in 2024, a lot of the pandemic induced rage and frustration we saw in 2020 is not going to be there, obviously, as the pandemic is more so over. So, what Trump has to essentially do is target this particular group of independents, talking about the issues which are the best for him, more specifically, jobs, the economy, even inflation, and remind these people a lot about the possible failures of Biden's policy, especially when it came to inflation and the price of goods. Essentially, if he can turn the frustration of COVID in 2020 into frustration about economic inefficiencies under Biden, constantly reminding this group about, inefficiencies when it had come to Biden's policies on inflation, and talk about how he can secure jobs and economic prosperity for these people, then he can really do well among these independents. I want to go over a poll in 2020 done in the state of Pennsylvania. It was a, let's see, university poll. It's this poll. It was done in Pennsylvania in 2020 before the election. Now, the poll did indicate that, Biden will be in an advantage in 2020, and a lot of that was due to the pandemic. So, see about a poll about the pandemic here. So, who do you trust more on handling the coronavirus pandemic, Donald Trump or Joe Biden? Only 34% said Donald Trump, 47% said Joe Biden. But when another question asked, who do you trust more on protecting jobs in Pennsylvania? 45% said Trump, while only 42% said Joe Biden. So even in Donald Trump's low point, people still trusted him more with, ensuring the well-being of their jobs. So if Trump could really make the election about these economic issues and, target Biden for his economic policy inefficiencies and say that he's the one who can essentially protect jobs, then it will help him significantly. Now, there's a lot of counties from which he can actually get a lot of these votes from if he applies what I'm talking about. And of course, he also has to use the election system properly as well. Do a lot of ballot harvesting efforts, which he said he is planning to do, like a lot of Democrats are also doing. If he can do these two particular things, go over the issues very importantly, very effectively, and maximize the conveniences of the election system, like Democrats have been doing, then it will help him. Talking about targeting specific issues, that's something we also saw a lot in 2022. In Nevada, Joe Lombardo, the current governor, talked a lot about the economy and talked about, how the current governor, the current governor then in Nevada was undermining the economy, and that's one of the reasons he won. A lot of people in Nevada cared about the economy. They were hurt by their jobs being undermined, and prices going too high. And because Joe Lombardo focused on the economy so much, he won. In Wisconsin, because Ron Johnson, the incumbent senator who was running, because he talked so much about crime, he was able to actually win his seat again in Wisconsin. Even in New York, Lee Zeldin, the candidate for governor in 2022, also talked a lot about crime. And because of that, in a reliably blue state, the election for governor in New York in 2022 became significantly narrower than before. A lot of Democratic politicians, talked about, say, protecting democracy in Secretary of State races. Some of them also talked about protecting abortion, and that also helped them among their Democratic populist votes, and even under voters. And even under with independent voters. So, spreading the issues and talking about the issues which are best for your interests, like Donald Trump talking about the economy, talking about jobs, and targeting Biden for his, ineffective economic policies when it came to inflation and all. Talking about that is very important, as we saw in 2022, where a lot of politicians were significantly benefited from focusing on key issues. Donald Trump has to focus on this particular key issue and turn the 2020 environment, which went against him with COVID, into an in 2024 environment which goes against Biden for the economy. Now, again, Biden can refute back and talk about some other accomplishments he's made in the economy, but this has to be something that Trump can be able to counter and refute, and as he will, and that's how he can show himself as a effective campaigner as he was in 2016. Now, all he needs through these methods is 42,000 votes, more or less. And there's a lot of counties from which he could get those votes. Let's look at Chester County. It voted for Biden with 57.8% of the vote going to Biden in 2020. But in 2016, the county only voted for Clinton, with Clinton receiving 51.9%. So it swayed significantly to the left in 2020 because of COVID. If he could get some more votes from that county back, that'll help him. Let's look at some of the other ring counties, say Northampton County, right? So Biden won it in 2020, getting 49.6% of the vote. But in 2016, it went to Trump, with Trump getting 49.6% of the vote. If he could get some votes from that county in particular, that'll help him. Even in Erie County, Trump won it in 2016 with 48% of the vote. It swayed to Biden, with Biden getting 49.8% of the vote in 2020. If he could get some more votes from Erie County, that could help him. Wherever he could get additional votes, he will be significantly benefited come 2024. If he uses the two factors I'm talking about, using the issues properly and using the election system properly, I believe he has a huge potential of getting a lot of votes from these swing counties which I was talking about, and that can very well lead to him winning Pennsylvania, at least by a tilt margin, which I'm predicting. So that is my prediction for Pennsylvania. Tilt Republican. So now the next state I want to give as tilt Republican is the state of Wisconsin. Let's look at Wisconsin 2020. So Trump only lost by, say, around 20,000 votes. So he needs 11,000 votes from Biden, assuming he has the same amount of support as he did in 2020, which I assume he did have. 2022 did not give us a lot of indicators that independents have swung significantly towards the Democratic Party. and based on the amount of support he got at a low point in 2020, I think he could still get at least that same amount of support in 2020. So 2024, I mean. So assuming he has that support, he just needs 11,000 more votes. And if he uses the two factors I was talking about, utilizing the issues properly and utilizing the election system properly, it will be significantly more easier actually for him to win in Wisconsin than it will be for him to win in Pennsylvania, because he needs so fewer more votes from Biden's column. And the fact that a lot of the suburban counties around Milwaukee still went Republican even during Trump's low point in 2020, that means that there's significant potential for him to, ba- grab a lot more votes from these counties come 2024. And that will significantly help him towards winning the state, as I predict he will. So that is my prediction for the state of Wisconsin, tilt Republican at least. So now I will be characterizing another state as tilt Republican, and that will be the state of Nevada, uh, allowing Trump to win the election with at least 270 electoral votes. Now, when talking about Nevada, I just want to go to some of the polls and in Nevada, and I also mentioned these polls or referenced these polls in my last video, and I think they're very important towards giving you a sense of how things are going to look like in the state in 2024. So the 2024 polls, as you could see, Trump is leading in a considerable amount of polls in the state. I mean, I don't think DeSantis is going to win, though he is also leading against Biden. But if you look at some of the polls in which provides a hypothetical matchup between Biden and Trump, he's actually winning quite a few of them. In the Vote TXT poll by Nevada newsmakers, Trump wins against Biden in a hypothetical matchup by 7 percentage points. I don't know why that's saying +8, it should be +7. In another one, but this is Republican sponsored, he wins by 1 percentage point. Now, Biden, he is leading in some of these polls as well against Trump. But considering the fact that Trump has been historically underestimated in, general election polls, especially in swing states, the fact that he is leading in some of them against Biden, especially in one poll by 7 percentage points in a nonpartisan poll, that's quite, insightful and indicative of how the election in 2024 is going to look like. And considering how much people in Nevada care about the economy, care about their jobs being secured, and, care about inflation being low, considering how much they were angry on their previous governor for all of the COVID lockdowns, which eventually led to that governor being kicked out with Joe Lombardo coming in as the new governor. Considering these factors, if Trump can use the two factors I was talking about, talking about the economy, especially talk about how he wants to continue to secure jobs, target Biden for the inflation, which, came about in 2022, and, really utilize the election system properly, Trump has a especially good chance of winning in Nevada compared to Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. So that's going to be my prediction for Nevada. Tilt Republican. So now, these are all the tilt Republican states I have. Now I'll be going over the tilt blue states, tilt Democratic states. So now, the first tilt Democratic state I'll give is the state of Michigan. So let's analyze how the voting patterns have been in Michigan. So let's go to the gubernatorial race in Michigan because they didn't have any Senate race in 2022. So So now you could see here, when looking at the 2020 comparison, Michigan in 2022 is showing the same trend I said about Pennsylvania, that there's a lot of sway to the left in these rural counties, which are quite heavily conservative and Trump country, which probably means that in Michigan, like in Pennsylvania, there are not a lot of people who are enthusiastic enough to vote. Republicans, Trump voters, I'm talking about, because Trump was not on the ballot. And in 2024, these voters will come back. So Trump should perform much better than how Tudor Dixon performed in Michigan. No question about that. So now let's look at some of the 2020 results in Michigan. So Trump essentially lost by around, I would say, 150,000 votes, that area. So, mathematically speaking, this means assuming he has the same support as he did in 2020, he would need 76,000 votes from the Biden column in order to win. 76,000 votes. Now, that is going to be this state as such is going to be the hardest to essentially flip back. In Pennsylvania, where the electorate and population is much higher, you just needed 44,000 votes. In Wisconsin, you just needed, in Pennsylvania, you needed 42,000 votes. In Wisconsin, you just needed 11,000 votes, not as much. But in Michigan, an electorate smaller than that of Pennsylvania, you need a far higher quantity of votes from the Biden column in order to win. Now, if you look at some of the polls in Michigan, Trump's not completely blown out of the water. He is leading in one poll, and like I said, the polls tend to historically underestimate Trump in the swing states. So that may be a bit significant. However, again, the don't give full guarantee. Don't give a full guarantee of trust to all the polls you look at, even in states like Michigan or even Nevada. But in Nevada, there were other trends I was talking about, which would also help Trump win it by a total margin. Now the thing is, seeing that he has to get this many amount of votes in order to win, I'm not so sure if he could break through that level, that quantity of votes which he needs, that level of votes which he needs. I'm not so sure if he can be able to break it through in 2024, which he would need to win 76,000 votes. Because, it's just that I think the trends in Michigan are also going a bit more in the favor of the Democratic Party, seeing how incompetent the Michigan Republican Party is, that they're essentially near or in bankruptcy, while the state Democratic Party in the state is really, riding along, grabbing control of the state Senate along with the governor's seat, state legislature, and grabbing control of the governor's seat. I'm not so sure if the competence of Republicans are strong enough in the state to essentially help Trump get this many amount of votes. This state by far is the most hostile, the most resistant towards Trump. And so I would want to see better trends for the Republicans or for Trump in the state before I could, come up with a prediction which may favor the Republicans, as I made in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania. I just want to see better developments for the Republicans, and if I don't, then I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep the prediction for this state as still Democratic. Again, I just don't see how Trump or the Republicans will be able to break through this level, this quantity of votes from the Biden column, which he needs in order to win, considering the, you know, relative incompetence of Republicans in this state. Now, of course, this can very well change based on developments which will emerge over around the next 1.5 years. But for now, I'm just most comfortable labeling this state as still Democratic. So that is my prediction for the state of Michigan. Now I'll be going over to the next tilt Democratic state, and that will be the state of Arizona. So now, let me be clear, Arizona can go both ways very easily. Let's look at how it did in 2020. Trump only lost the state by 11,000 votes. So, assuming he has the same level of support in 2020, he just needs 5,500 votes in order to essentially flip the state. That's how few votes he needs in order to flip the state, assuming he has the same amount of support as he had at a pretty low point of his political career, and at a point when a lot of traditional Republicans in the state were essentially backfiring on him. So it can be very easy for him to win the state. Let's look at how it was in 2022 in the Senate race. With the 2020 comparison, you didn't see significant sway to the left. You saw a lot of sway to the left in traditional Republican counties, thus reflecting the trend I was talking about in Pennsylvania, where some people in these Republican counties, Trump voters just were not enthusiastic to come out and vote, which is why Blake Masters lost by a larger margin than Trump lost. And a lot of these voters, like people in Greenlee County, who came and voted in 2020 for Trump but didn't come in 2022 to vote Republican, they are probably going to come back and vote for Trump in 2024, I mean, which can open up the possibility for Trump to have the same amount of support as he did in 2020. And then after that, it's all a matter of just getting, 5,500 or to 6,000 votes. And, he could very well do that in some of the swing-like counties. Let's look at how the state was in 2016, I mean. So he could get 6,000 additional votes from Biden, say, in even Maricopa County in the suburban part, assuming he has the same level of support, at least as he did in 2020, he could flip the state. But the reason I'm making this state tilt Democratic is because Arizona, unlike other states like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, have a large influx of traditional John McCain, Mitt Romney Republicans who, while being conservative, are pretty, hard on not voting for Trump, pretty committed on not voting for Trump because they just don't like how Trump is, and they're more, traditional like Republicans, not really approving of Trump or like how, Trump's mannerism is. And I'm not so sure, it's going to be that easy to essentially convince many of these traditional Republicans who went to Biden to go to the other side, especially considering the indictments Trump has received. One from New York City as a result of the prosecution. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has placed against Trump for essentially mismanaging campaign finance funds to pay hush money to a adult film actress to stay silent on a particular personal affair, perhaps sexually related personal affair, and then another indictment given on the federal level as a result of the U.S. Justice Department's investigation on Trump for supposedly mismanaging or keeping sensitive national security documents when he should not have been keeping them. Now, I think for the general population, these indictments are gonna be neutralized. It's really gonna blow off by 2024 November, because yes, while there is a dominant view that Trump should have some responsibility for these, is responsible for these accusations or allegations, there's also a dominant view that these indictments are politically motivated. And as a result, because because of that dominant view that the indictments are motivated, that's going to neutralize the view that Trump should be held accountable, and essentially it's going to neutralize the effect of the indictments in the 2024 election. Let's look at some of the polls related to the indictments, right? So, uh, Trump indictment, Manhattan. Let's look at a polls from the Quinnipiac University. So, 57% of Americans think that um, criminal charges should disqualify former President Trump from running for president again. And this is, I believe, related to the Manhattan District Attorney's investigation of Trump, Alvin Bragg's investigation. But at the same time, more than 6 in 10 Americans, 62%, think the Manhattan District Attorney's case involving former President Trump is mainly motivated by politics, while just 32% think the case is mainly motivated by the law. Now let's look at a poll on the indictment Trump got on the federal level because of the Justice Department's prosecution of Trump. So, 65% of Americans think the charges are either very serious, 45%, or somewhat serious, 20%, while just 29% think they're either not too serious, 13%, or not serious at all, 16%. 6 in 10 Americans, 60%, think former President Trump acted inappropriately in the way he handled classified documents after leaving the White House, while just 26% think he acted properly. But at the same time, roughly 6 in 10 Americans, 62%, think the Justice Department's case involving former President Trump's handling of classified documents after leaving the White House is mainly motivated by politics, while 34% think the case is mainly motivated by the law. So, yes, majorities of Americans, or at least pluralities of Americans, think Trump should be held accountable for the allegations he's gotten from both these indictments. But at the same time, 62% think that uh, these cases and these indictments against Trump are, as such, are mainly motivated by politics. And because of this, and as such, this dominant view that these cases are mainly motivated by dominance is going to essentially neutralize the view that Trump should be held accountable for the allegations he's receiving in these cases, and in turn, it will neutralize the overall effects of these indictments in the 2024 race as such. So within 1.5 years, or up to, between now and election day in 2024, my prediction is it's going to essentially, these indictments are going to blow over for the broad general population. But I don't think it's going to completely blow over for a lot of the traditional Republicans you see in states like Arizona. Because these traditional Republicans, uh, I don't think they essentially like how Trump's, uh, I don't think they've admired Trump's conduct a lot, and they've expressed that over the last couple of years. And I just think that these indictments, even if majorities of Americans think that, they are mainly motivated by politics, I think the indictments for this particular group, or these traditional Republicans, it's essentially just going to further resolve their resistance and hostility towards Trump, for which reason I am very wary about how Trump can essentially get a lot of these, say perhaps right leaning independents from Biden. I want to see, I mean, again, this could very well go the other way, but as I said with Michigan, I want to see, more developments which may favor Trump before I change my opinion about this race, my prediction for this race. So the next state we're going to go over is the state of Georgia. That's the last state on the map. And I will also be rating this as tilt Democratic as well. And I'll be doing so mainly for the same reason as I rated Arizona as tilt Democratic, because there's a large influx of traditional Republicans, and with the indictments on the rise, these indictments, they may blow over for the general population, but I don't think they're gonna blow over for a lot of traditional Republicans who have been quite steadfast on essentially not voting for uh, Trump or Trump's essentially endorsed candidates. They are much more finer voting for more grounded traditionalist Republicans, as you saw in a lot in the House races in Georgia and even in Arizona, where a lot of traditional Republicans are. But I don't think they're going to be that uh, open or flexible towards voting for Trump. I also want to show you another trend we saw in 2022 with Georgia. Let's go to the Senate race in Georgia, and you'll see when this race is compared to 2022, the biggest sways towards the Democratic Party happened in Atlanta and the suburbs. Now, as such, this could have very well been fueled by independents and even some more traditional Republicans who either didn't come out and vote for the Republicans and allowed more Democrats to, or even went out and voted Democratic. So, whether or not, they sway back for 2024 is quite uncertain for me, especially with the indictments. Now, I also forgot to uh, talk about another key issue, which can be at least a potentially strong element of the 2024 election, and that is many of Trump's claims about the 2020 election being, rigged and stolen from him. And now these claims have been heavily derided on and condemned by Trump's critics. And as far as I'm concerned, it's going to further pull away traditional Republicans and even some more independents in states like Georgia and Arizona, which makes me even more comfortable with my um, predictions for Georgia and Arizona as being tilt Democratic. Now, how this plays up with the general population as well as independents as a whole is really going to be based upon how Trump or Biden is able to essentially turn the narrative of the 2024 election. Now, if Trump is able to focus on the economy significantly, perhaps talk about how he can best secure jobs and keep unemployment and inflation low, and poke at Biden for some of his policies which may have led to worse inflation, and even poke at Biden for some of his foreign policy mistakes, because American foreign policy under Biden has been severely under question given the disastrous withdrawal of US troops and uh, US assets from Afghanistan, as well as the prolonged Ukraine war, if Trump can really make it about that and, really show some good examples from his administration between 2017 and 2021, then he will be at the advantage. But if Biden is able to turn their election around and make it mainly about, Trump's claims about the 2020 election and, make the entire 2024 election just about Trump and those claims, then, he could pull away some independents who may have otherwise gone to Trump and make the election in his favor. This is really it's really more about who can play on the offensive better, Trump or Biden. And based on what I've seen, I think Trump can play on the offensive better, which is why I've favored him in some of the states on the map, such as Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Now we also have to go over the second district of Nebraska, which I'll also rate as tilt Democratic. I think a lot of people in the second district of Nebraska, that's where Omaha and the suburbs is. There's also a lot of traditional Republicans, like I've said about Arizona and Georgia, who are more centrist, moderate leaning, and perhaps not as approving of Trump's mannerism as much of the Republican Party is approving of Trump. Centrist and moderate is a good way to describe a lot of these traditional Republicans in Arizona, Georgia, Nebraska's second district. Trump, he's much more how do I say he's much more populist, much more aggressive on his approach, and a lot of traditional, moderate leaning Republicans in Arizona, Georgia, and even the second district of Nebraska, as I'm predicting, are not as approving of that. And along with the indictments Trump has received and the election claims Trump has made, they're probably going to be even less approving of Trump after that, these particular group of Republicans. So that is my prediction for the 2024 election, presidential election. 270 electoral votes for Trump and 268 electoral votes for Biden. Trump wins by 2 electoral votes, a close race. Thank you all for watching this video. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment as well, as feedback is always appreciated and necessary for this channel. My next video will be going over the gubernatorial races during the 2023 to 2024 election cycle. Please make sure to watch that video as well, and if you haven't watched my first video, make sure to watch that as well. Thank you everyone and have a nice day.